Hi everyone, have you ever noticed how some men seem untouchable? Not because they're arrogant, but because they carry a presence that draws people in naturally. That presence isn't born from luck. It comes from purpose, from a deep understanding of who they are, what they want, and the kind of love they're willing to allow into their lives. When a man stops chasing validation, when he stops bending to everyone else's expectations, something magical happens. The world starts showing up differently for him. People, opportunities, even relationships, it all changes. You see, love doesn't just appear because you want it. It shows up when you're whole, when your heart isn't grasping, when your soul isn't empty, when your life is moving with direction and intention. Women, men, partners, they feel it. They sense when someone is grounded, confident, and unstoppable in their own purpose. And when a man truly focuses on his purpose, he becomes magnetic, not just physically, but emotionally. He stops tolerating nonsense. He sets boundaries that protect his heart. He stops investing in people who don't match his energy, and the ones who do, they rise to meet him. Purpose changes the way he communicates, the way he loves, and the way he sees himself. Emotional wounds start to heal because he no longer leans on someone else to fill what only he can complete within himself. His self-worth stops being negotiable. And here's the beautiful truth. When a man steps fully into his purpose, he doesn't just attract love. He attracts the right love. The kind that honors him, challenges him, and supports him. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, committed to growth, and unafraid to stand alone when necessary. If you're watching this, I want you to consider this your focus, your clarity, your purpose. They are the most powerful forms of love you can radiate. The moment you own that, everything else, relationships, emotional connection, respect, and even intimacy, falls into place naturally. The man who knows who he is doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't manipulate or chase. He just lives fully, unapologetically, and the right people can't help but be drawn to that. When we talk about a man knowing his worth, we aren't just talking about ego or confidence. We're talking about a deep, unwavering recognition of his value, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. A man who truly knows his worth doesn't bend, compromise, or diminish himself to make someone else feel comfortable or to win love. He doesn't tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or people who only show up when it's convenient. That kind of self-awareness is magnetic because it communicates a sense of security, integrity, and authenticity that no superficial charm can imitate. Understanding one's worth is not something that happens overnight. It's built through experience, reflection, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about oneself. It's the kind of clarity that comes when a man looks in the mirror and says, I deserve respect. I deserve love that uplifts me. I will not settle for anything less. When he holds himself to that standard, he begins to set the tone for the relationships he attracts. Because the energy he carries is the energy he invites. People sense when someone is anchored in their value. And that energy naturally draws in partners who are aligned with it, rather than those who drain, diminish, or disregard it. Knowing your worth doesn't mean being arrogant or self-centered. It's not about thinking you're above anyone else. It's about understanding that your emotional and mental space is sacred, and it deserves to be treated with care. When a man embodies this, he becomes a stabilizing force in any relationship. He isn't needy, anxious, or constantly seeking reassurance because he knows that the love he gives and receives should come from a place of mutual respect, not desperation. This mindset allows him to navigate relationships with clarity. He can say no, without guilt, enough, without shame, and yes, to people who genuinely match his energy. When a man's sense of worth is strong, love stops being a game of proving yourself. It stops being about chasing approval or molding yourself to someone else's expectations. Instead, love becomes a space of mutual growth, emotional safety, and shared respect. It's about two complete people choosing to connect, not one incomplete person begging to be seen or valued. This is where true attraction comes from, the kind that isn't forced, needy, or conditional, but natural, powerful, and magnetic. The real beauty of knowing your worth is that it transforms not only how you are treated, but how you see yourself. It allows you to recognize when someone is adding to your life versus taking from it. It gives you the courage to walk away from relationships that no longer serve your growth, and the patience to wait for those that truly align with your purpose. And over time, this clarity doesn't just bring better love, it brings freedom, peace, and a life filled with people who honor your value as much as you do. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Many think of them as walls, something that shuts people out or creates distance. But the truth is, boundaries are the framework of respect in any relationship. They are the lines we draw to protect our emotional space, our energy, and our self-worth. A man who sets clear boundaries is not rejecting love. He is defining the kind of love he will accept and the kind of life he intends to live. Boundaries are a declaration. I know what I deserve, I know what I will not tolerate, and I will not compromise my integrity for temporary comfort or approval. Setting boundaries requires courage. It means saying no when something doesn't feel right, even when it might upset someone else. It means standing firm when others try to test your limits. It's easy to let life sweep you along, reacting to the desires, expectations, or drama of those around you. But a man who respects himself and his purpose knows that compromise doesn't always mean growth. It can often mean loss, frustration, or resentment. Boundaries are the armor that allows him to engage in relationships authentically, without losing himself in the process. Boundaries are also invitations. They signal to others what kind of behavior is acceptable and what is not. They communicate clarity without hostility, firmness without aggression. When a man establishes boundaries, he doesn't just protect himself, he teaches those around him how to treat him. People are drawn to those who know their limits because it demonstrates self-respect, emotional maturity, and confidence. It removes uncertainty from interactions, allowing connections to form on a foundation of mutual understanding and respect. Without boundaries, relationships can become exhausting. A man without boundaries often gives too much, apologizes too much, or bends himself in ways that chip away at his self-worth. He may tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or emotional games because he fears losing connection. But boundaries shift the dynamic completely. They empower a man to engage in relationships from a place of abundance rather than scarcity, from a position of choice rather than neediness. They create a space where love is freely given and received, without compromise to one's core values or personal growth. The most powerful relationships thrive on boundaries. They allow two people to grow independently while supporting each other, to connect deeply without suffocating, and to love authentically without losing themselves. Boundaries are not rigid, they are dynamic, reflecting a man's evolving understanding of his worth and purpose. When applied with respect and intention, boundaries transform relationships from a source of stress or confusion into a space of clarity, trust, and emotional safety. A man's boundaries are a reflection of his self-respect and his commitment to living a life aligned with his purpose. They are not just lines drawn, they are a declaration of value, a magnet for the right people, and a safeguard for emotional and relational freedom. A man who masters this doesn't just protect himself, he elevates every relationship he is part of. Emotional healing begins the moment a man stops seeking validation from others. It's one of the hardest lessons because we are wired to want approval, recognition, and love from the people around us. But the truth is, relying on external validation is like building a house on sand. It can never support real confidence, real self-worth, or genuine connection. When a man realizes that the opinions, approval, or affection of others do not define him, he begins to reclaim his emotional power. He begins to see that the only approval he truly needs is his own. Seeking validation often comes from past wounds. Perhaps he was ignored, misunderstood, or undervalued at some point in life. Maybe he was raised in environments where love had conditions, where affection was only given when certain expectations were met. And so, without realizing it, he carries that pattern into adulthood, constantly looking for someone else to tell him he's enough, he's worthy, or he's loved. But no one else can fill that void. The healing begins when he understands that self-worth is not borrowed, it's claimed. It's decided, felt, and owned internally, independent of anyone else's behavior. When a man stops seeking validation externally, he also begins to see relationships differently. He no longer clings, chases, or overcompensates to be noticed or loved. He stops molding himself to fit someone else's ideal and starts showing up authentically. This is the turning point where emotional freedom begins. Relationships no longer feel like a test or a negotiation. Instead, they become spaces where mutual respect, trust, and genuine connection can flourish. He is no longer desperate to be liked, needed, or validated because he already knows his value. The beauty of this transformation is that it also allows a man to process his emotions honestly. He can feel hurt, disappointment, or fear without letting it define him or drive him into unhealthy patterns. He can reflect, learn, and grow from emotional experiences rather than reacting impulsively to secure someone's approval. This emotional sovereignty is powerful. It creates stability, clarity, and strength in love. People are naturally drawn to it because they sense a man who is whole, self-aware, and emotionally independent. Healing from the need for validation doesn't happen overnight, and it requires courage. It asks a man to face his insecurities, to confront the moments he felt small or unworthy, and to decide that those moments no longer control him. It asks him to practice self-compassion, to affirm his value, and to make choices that honor his emotional health above temporary comfort or acceptance. But the reward is profound: freedom from the emotional roller coaster of seeking approval, the ability to form authentic connections, and the confidence to love and be loved without compromise. Emotional healing is the key that unlocks a man's ability to fully engage in love and life. When he stops relying on others to prove his worth, he becomes magnetic, grounded, and empowered. He attracts people who see him for who he truly is, not for the version of himself he tries to perform. And in that space, real love, deep, respectful, and mutually nurturing, becomes inevitable. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood concepts in relationships. Many hear the word and immediately think it means being cold, distant, or unfeeling. But the truth is far more powerful. Detachment is not about shutting your heart, it's about gaining clarity, maintaining self-respect, and protecting your emotional energy. When a man practices healthy detachment, he stops letting external circumstances dictate his mood, his decisions, or his sense of worth. He learns to observe relationships, emotions, and interactions without being controlled by them, which gives him freedom to choose rather than react. Detachment begins with understanding that your happiness, self-worth, and sense of purpose cannot come from another person. When a man is emotionally attached to approval, affection, or validation from someone else, he loses himself. He compromises, overinvests, and sometimes even tolerates disrespect just to keep the connection alive. But detachment flips that script. It allows him to engage with love intentionally, without fear of losing it or clinging to it. It means he can love fully, while also maintaining his independence and emotional sovereignty. This doesn't mean he becomes indifferent or unemotional. In fact, detachment often deepens emotional awareness. A detached man can feel love, desire, and connection fully, but he isn't trapped by them. He can witness situations with calmness, make decisions from clarity rather than desperation, and respond instead of react. He stops overthinking every text, every action, or every silence. Detachment gives him the ability to step back and see the bigger picture, whether a relationship is aligned with his values, whether the connection is mutual, and whether the love he's giving is being reciprocated. Detachment also strengthens boundaries. When a man isn't emotionally dependent, he naturally sets standards for how he expects to be treated. He can say, "Enough," when a pattern of disrespect appears, or "Not now," when a connection doesn't serve his growth. He no longer tolerates games, manipulation, or emotional unpredictability because he is anchored in his purpose and self-worth. In this way, detachment isn't avoidance, it's empowerment. It allows him to prioritize himself while remaining open to authentic connection. In the modern dating world, detachment is more critical than ever. With so much distraction, emotional inconsistency, and superficial connection, the man who can remain grounded, composed, and self-reliant becomes magnetic. People are drawn to his calm energy, his independence, and his emotional maturity. They sense that he is not chasing, not needy, and not desperate, which paradoxically makes them want to meet him where he is, rather than pull him into where they are. Detachment is the practice of loving without losing yourself. It is the discipline of being present while remaining emotionally sovereign. A man who masters detachment does not settle for attention or affection that diminishes him. He can connect deeply and passionately, but he does so with clarity, purpose, and unwavering self-respect. This balance of love and independence is rare, magnetic, and transformative, both for him and for anyone fortunate enough to be in his life. Purpose is the strongest form of magnetism a man can possess. When a man has clarity about his life, his goals, and his values, it radiates outward in a way that cannot be faked or forced. People, including the people he loves, can feel it. It's not about being busy or appearing important. It's about having a life that is intentional, meaningful, and aligned with who he truly is. Purpose gives a man direction, confidence, and resilience, and it transforms the way he interacts with love, relationships, and life itself. A man who lacks purpose often drifts. His decisions are reactive, his emotions are unstable, and his connections are chaotic. He may seek constant validation, settle for less than he deserves, or struggle to maintain meaningful relationships. But the moment he finds purpose, everything changes. His presence shifts from uncertain to grounded, from insecure to magnetic. He begins to operate from a place of abundance rather than neediness, which is incredibly attractive. People naturally want to be part of a life that is moving with intention, energy, and meaning. Purpose also acts as a compass in relationships. When a man knows his path, he can recognize which people are aligned with it and which are not. He doesn't waste time on those who drain his energy or diminish his growth. Instead, he invests in connections that support mutual respect, growth, and emotional depth. This doesn't mean he's rigid or controlling. It means he values his life enough to protect it, and in doing so, he raises the standard for the love he attracts. A purposeful man doesn't chase love. He allows love to come to him in a way that complements the life he is building. The beauty of purpose is that it creates emotional freedom. When a man is focused on his life's mission, he stops hinging his happiness on external factors. He can love fully without clinging, care deeply without over-investing, and give generously without expecting approval. His energy is stable, his confidence is visible, and his presence becomes magnetic. Women and partners are drawn to this energy because it signals strength, clarity, and integrity, the very qualities that build trust, attraction, and lasting connection. Purpose also fuels self-worth. A man with direction understands his value not just in relationships, but in life. He recognizes that his time, energy, and attention are precious resources, and he chooses how to spend them wisely. He doesn't settle for love that distracts him from growth. He seeks the kind that amplifies it. This alignment between purpose and love is transformative. It creates relationships that are not only passionate and connected, but also empowering and sustainable. When a man focuses on his purpose, he becomes magnetic without trying. He no longer fears being alone or seeks approval through compromise. Love begins to flow to him naturally from people who see his clarity, his strength, and his authenticity. Purpose doesn't just change his life. It changes the way love finds him, the way he experiences relationships, and the way he honors himself in every connection. It's the quiet, unstoppable power that transforms a man from ordinary to extraordinary. And when he embraces it fully, everything changes. I want you to carry with you love isn't something you chase. Respect isn't something you beg for. Happiness isn't something someone else gives you. It begins with you, your purpose, your worth, your boundaries, your healing, and your emotional clarity. When you focus on becoming the man who knows who he is, who protects his energy, and who moves through life with intention, everything changes. The right love, the right connection, the kind of respect that feels effortless. It doesn't just happen, it's drawn to you because of the energy you carry. A man who stands in his purpose doesn't just attract love. He attracts the love that mirrors his strength, honors his journey, and elevates his life. And that love, it's not transactional, it's not desperate, It's not conditional. It's real. It's magnetic. It's everything that a man who knows his worth has been ready for all along. So step into your life. Protect your heart. Stand firm in your values. Heal what needs to be healed. And chase not the approval of others, but the life and love you deserve. When you do that, you'll realize the world responds, not because you demand it, but because you've become the man everyone secretly wants to be around, the man who is grounded, whole, and unstoppable. And that, my friends, is the moment everything